I was Chase's lover for 5 years. In name only. All he liked was my face, the spitting image of Evan's. On nights when the grief consumed him, he'd strangle me, his eyes bloodshot as he demanded, "William, why wasn't it you who died?" I stopped struggling and let Chase choke the breath out of me. His devastated, broken expression looked so twisted in my fading vision. In these 5 years, he'd had plenty of moments where he lost control. One second, he'd be kissing me like he wanted to devour me. The next, he wanted my life, wanted to trade it for my twin brother, Evan. I indulged all the disgust and hatred in my heart, picking the words that would hurt him most, stabbing him in the heart, sentence by sentence. Quit acting like you're so deep. When Evan was alive, I didn't see you loving him then. Evan would have ripped his heart out for you, but you just treated him like a bargaining chip to use against my dad. If you've got the guts, kill me, because this face, the only place you deserve to see it is on a goddamn tombstone. After running my mouth, a beating was inevitable. The worst was 2 years ago, on the anniversary of Evan's death. Chase wiped his mouth, smearing the trace of blood where I'd bitten him, and dragged me to the floor. He grabbed the solid brass base of the floor lamp by the bed and, without hesitation, smashed my knees twice. I grit my teeth to keep from screaming, but physiological tears blurred my vision uncontrollably. "There. Now you're even more like Evan," Chase said, stepping on the back of my knee and grinding his toe in. I shook like a leaf, black spots dancing before my eyes. My jaw couldn't hold it back anymore, and I let out a low, wretched growl. Chase crouched down. One hand gripped my chin, the other brushed away the bangs soaked in my cold sweat. Then he pulled me into his arms. His voice trembled with tears. "Evan, I miss you so much." I convulsed in his embrace. "Chase, I miss you so much." Drop dead. But in that moment I was tired, exhausted. I let go of all the unwillingness and resentment. We'd been torturing each other for 5 years. If one of us had to die to end it, fine, let it be me. I let Chase's face blur in my vision. Cough, cough. Chase suddenly let go. Air rushed in. I coughed violently, snot and tears streaming down my face, looking pathetic as a clown once again. Chase pulled away, standing by the bed, looking down at me curled up in a ball. His voice was hoarse and cold. "Evan saved your life. You're not allowed to die." He was seriously sick in the head. He was the one who just tried to kill me. I nearly coughed my lungs out before finally peeling myself away from the agony of suffocation. I didn't care that my clothes were torn and revealed everything. I just lay paralyzed on the bed, staring at the ceiling. My tone was hopeless. "Chase, it's been 5 years. Haven't you had enough fun yet? If Evan knew, he definitely wouldn't want to see you like this." In 5 years, I'd never said anything that sounded so much like comfort. If he had half a brain, he'd hear that I was unilaterally surrendering. I didn't want to fight him anymore. But the next moment, Chase was on top of me again. His long, muscular leg forced its way between mine. I was confused. All these years he'd kept me, Chase only saw me as a substitute, as the enemy who got Evan killed. He disdained going all the way. All his kissing, touching, biting, and kneading were just venting anger. I genuinely didn't understand this ambiguous position. Had he come up with a new way to torture me? I awkwardly tried to scoot up to escape. He pinned me down by the shoulder. "William, whether this game between us starts or ends isn't up to you." He kissed me to shut me up. Then he reached for my belt. I shuddered and pushed him hard. "What are you doing?" Desire stained Chase's eyes. My brain short-circuited, and I had the untimely thought, "Is this for Evan or for me?" Then I heard the ruthlessness in Chase's voice. He pressed his knee into me. "Give it up, William. This is your life now." I didn't know how much time had passed. I just felt hot and weak all over. In my days, I thought I saw Evan. He was angry with me, asking why I was sleeping with the man he loved. I wanted to say, "I'm a straight guy, for fuck's sake, I don't want this either." But I couldn't get the words out, anxious and scratching at my head. Evan cried harder and harder, until his whole face dissolved in a flood of tears, becoming a bloody mess, just like his ruined face after the speeding sedan sent him flying. "Evan," I cried out, reaching but grasping nothing. Couldn't grab Evan being hit by the car. Couldn't grab the fading Evan who was still blaming me. "William, it's me." A cool, deep male voice, like a gentle, steady breeze, blew away the chaotic images in my mind. I opened my eyes and saw Dr. Vance sitting beside me. I was gripping his arm so hard the sleeve of his crisp white shirt was hopelessly wrinkled. I quickly let go, my voice dry and raspy. Sorry. He raised a hand to check my forehead. Behind his glasses, those handsome, elegant eyes looked elsewhere, avoiding my gaze. Fever broke. I hummed a response, glanced at the gloomy sky outside the window, and asked, how long was I out? 32 hours. Vance glanced at the gray dial Rolex on his wrist. I moved, and everything hurt. One specific area burned with a piercing sting. Still, I fought through the pain to sit up, leaning against the headboard. Thanks. Sorry to trouble you every time something happens. Chase writes the checks. I just do the job. Vance didn't look up, organizing his medical kit at a leisurely pace. But without warning, his movements faltered. Instruments clattered together. He darted to the bedside, his flawlessly handsome face inches from mine, the corners of his eyes reddening. William, trust me. I can help you. I stared at him, giving a tragic smile as I shook my head. This was the second time I'd rejected his kindness. Vance was Chase's private physician. Occasionally, when I wasn't feeling well and a few pills wouldn't fix it, he was the one in charge. 2 years ago, when my knees were shattered, Chase called him to handle it. That was the first time I saw the usually cool and composed Vance lose control. He picked me up, growling, he needs a hospital, or this leg is useless. Unfortunately, Chase just smiled dismissively. Useless is correct. Evan broke a leg for me and couldn't walk properly. As his stand-in, he should be professional about it. I leaned my head against Vance's chest, feeling his violent heartbeat. He looked down at me, lips trembling. Then, ignoring Chase's obstruction, he took me to his hospital. After the surgery, when the anesthesia wore off, I was drenched in cold sweat from the pain. Vance pushed up his glasses, seeming to make a decision. William, I can figure something out regarding your father's debt. I looked at this man, usually so silent and cold, and felt a bit surprised. He was Chase's friend, yet he wanted to save me from the fire. But this fire was something I had to endure. I needed to stay by Chase's side as Evan's double, so that Chase would be willing to show mercy and not pursue the massive debt my dad owed him. Otherwise, my dad wouldn't survive. I stopped reminiscing and dodged Vance's sincere gaze. Dr. Vance, I'm fine. You can go back now. I could hear Vance grinding his back teeth, but he didn't say anything else. He stood up, grabbed his kit, and walked. He ran into Chase at the door. The door was ajar, and their conversation was clear. Is William okay? Chase's tone was perfunctory. Vance's emotions were already hidden watertight. Fever's down, but the tearing down there needs time to heal. He paused, then added, Chase, control yourself. Chase scoffed lightly. Isn't that why I have you? He won't die. Then he pushed the door open and entered. I looked away, not wanting to see him. Chase sat on the edge of the bed and placed the takeout he was carrying on the nightstand. Hungry? Eat something. Not concern. Command. I looked at the takeout. It was spicy crayfish. Don't you love this? Don't leave any. Chase opened the container, pulled out a pair of disposable gloves, and set them in front of me. I'm not hungry. Chase didn't move. His cold, grim eyes stared unblinkingly at me. Resigned, I put on the gloves and took the container. I took a bite. Insanely spicy. Chase pulled out his phone and opened a surveillance feed. It showed the scene of Vance and me talking just moments ago. William, I know your every move. Don't try any little schemes. It's useless. A chill shot up my spine, and I subconsciously looked around. I didn't know where the cameras were. I lowered my head and continued gnawing on the crayfish. It was so spicy. Otherwise, why would tears be streaming down my face? The injuries kept piling up for over a month. By the time I followed Chase to the golf course again, I had lost a significant amount of weight. Really did look like some frail, delicate victim. Chase's friends formed their own clique, chatting and laughing. Occasionally, their gazes landed on me, unconcealed mockery and ridicule. I stood beside them, lonely, holding Chase's clubs. I felt just like that golf ball being smacked around. One of them, a guy named Wyatt, stood with his left hand casually in his pocket, tossing a ball with his right. He gestured flippantly at me. "Little Grayson, make yourself useful. Go fetch the ball." The surroundings went instantly quiet. All eyes turned to me. A thrill of abuse, the excitement of watching a show, expanded silently among them. I didn't move, looking at their young faces written with superiority. I wondered in a daze, what would the old William Grayson have done? He would have charged over and kicked each of them, not stopping until they begged for mercy. No, back in the day, in this city, no one dared to mess with me like this. My dad, my brother, they were the solid, broad umbrella over my head, shielding me from all of life's storms. My world was smooth sailing, full of flattery. Grayson's second son was synonymous with a carefree, glorious life. But now, the umbrella had been ruthlessly destroyed, and the storm had swept in. Random nobodies who couldn't even get near me before now found joy in toying with me. Go get it, or I'll tell Chase. I hear when Chase punishes people, he gets very creative. Wyatt's eyes were lewd as they raked over me, then drifted to the white dot on the distant grass. One moment, I said, my tone so calm it surprised even me. I placed Chase's club into the bag. Then, enduring the piercing pain in my left knee, walked step by step toward that pale white humiliation. Right now, Chase was in the VIP lounge handling a work emergency. Before this, he had already made me caddy for him, making me retrieve the ball over a dozen times. He wouldn't let me use my cane. He just wanted to torture my ruined leg. It was working. I was limping noticeably now. I'd only taken a few steps, and I was already sweating from the pain. But when I finally retrieved the ball and could see Wyatt's magnified smugness, he threw another one, farther. Wyatt raised his voice, putting on a show. Little Grayson, please. I gripped the ball in my hand, suppressing the urge to smash it into his arrogant face. I turned to get the ball. A roar of laughter came from behind me, their celebration of successfully degrading me. On the return trip, I could barely lift my left leg. Just as I reached Wyatt, I tripped on the turf and went straight down to my knees. The ball rolled out of my hand. Chase, who had strolled back, stepped on it. Wyatt stifled a laugh. Chase, look at little Grayson. It's not even a holiday, and he's bowing so deeply. Chase ignored him. He walked over and reached out a hand to me. I looked up at his emotionless face, unsure for a moment whether I should take it. You like kneeling? Chase's tone was unkind, so I grasped that hand with its distinct knuckles. Chase pulled me up but didn't let go, holding my hand as we walked slowly over. Then he commanded, hand me a club. As soon as the club was in his hand, I saw a flash of silver. Wyatt clutched his knee, screaming as he fell to the ground, wailing incessantly. Chase tossed aside the club, its head now dented, and stepped on the rolling Wyatt. Chase! The others tried to intervene. Chase's sharp gaze swept around, and no one dared to speak. Even if William is just a toy, he belongs to me. You think you're worthy of abusing him? Chase, I was wrong. Wyatt was a mess of snot and tears. Crawl over there. Apologize. Wyatt slithered pitifully, crawling to my feet. Little Grayson, I was wrong. I won't do it again. Forgive me. The look in the others' eyes when they looked at me now held a bit of fear, but it made me feel like a dog relying on its master's power. Pathetic. I took a step back. Don't do that. Get up. Smack. Chase stepped forward and slapped me so hard my face turned sideways. My ears rang. Took a long time for the stinging pain to fade. I heard Chase's sharp voice. Him apologizing to you is the dignity I'm giving you. You have to take it. That sour warmth that had risen in my heart when he reached out to me earlier was slapped out of shape, turned into deep self-loathing. I really was a piece of trash, falling in love with a psychopath like Chase. Chase got sick. In 5 years, I hadn't even heard him cough more than a few times. But now he was shivering all over, curled up on the large bed in the villa's medical room. All his sharp, cold edges had melted away, leaving a pitiful, fragile little animal. I sat by the bed, studying his face, flushed with sickness. Driven by some strange impulse, I carefully reached out and traced the arch of his brow. The heat from his body burned all the way through my fingertips to my heart, making me shudder. A light cough came from the door. I jerked my hand back and turned to see Vance standing there with his medical kit. His gaze heavy. Dr. Vance. Vance nodded, opened the wardrobe to get the white coat kept specifically for him, put it on, sanitized himself, and then began examining Chase. I moved automatically to the massage chair in the corner, out of the way. After checking him over, Vance said flatly he's fine. Just overwork. His health has always been good, and he's always been busy. Before, you're worried about him? Vance interrupted, tilting his head to ask me. He stumped me. I opened my mouth but no words came out, so I just nodded. I give him regular checkups. I know his physical condition well. The human body has limits. Even a man made of iron needs to stop and rest when he hits that limit. The high fever is just the body sending a distress signal. A good sleep and a few days of rest are all he needs. Okay, thanks. Vance set up and for Chase. Chase stirred, turning over impatiently twice. William. The murmur was so soft I wasn't sure I'd heard my own name. Disbelieving but hopeful, I walked over and leaned in close. William, I'm cold. Like I was under a spell. I immediately tucked the blanket around him with gentle care. The next second, Vance yanked me aside violently. Anger covered his cool features. William, if I wasn't here, were you planning to hold him to keep him warm? With my thoughts exposed, I awkwardly looked away. William, you're sick. Vance's tone was heavy with grief, as if I were terminally ill. I think you need to see a psychiatrist. I have a friend who is an authority in the field. I'll text you his contact. Vance picked up his phone. His fingers, sliding across the screen, were trembling slightly. So panicked he didn't look like someone who could hold a scalpel. Dr. Vance? I'm fine. Vance seemed not to hear. My phone buzzed. I opened it to see the business card of the psychiatrist he'd sent. Stockholm Syndrome can be completely cured with timely intervention. Dr. Vance, I said I'm fine. I don't need a shrink. I walked out as if fleeing. Vance followed close behind, blocking me at the corner of the stairs. William, you cannot love Chase. When my thoughts were laid bare so bluntly, I suddenly lost the energy to argue or hide. I leaned against the wall, defeated. But I'm just that kind of ungrateful trash. Chase is good looking and he's a big shot in the city now. Besides, I've been fucked by him so many times I'm practically ruined. Can't I just love him? Vance took off his glasses, looking pained, and pinched the bridge of his nose. Dr. Vance, leave me alone. Just let me rot. I brushed past Vance's shoulder, ready to go downstairs. William, have you never been suspicious about your brother's death? If Chase woke up and checked the villa's surveillance to find I'd left with Vance, he'd probably go crazy. He'd make me suffer for it. But I couldn't care anymore. Vance had grabbed my weak point. I had no choice but to get into his Maybach. Talk. What do you know? I sat in the passenger seat, letting Vance drive 2 blocks before pulling over under the shade of some trees. I asked through gritted teeth, my heart feeling like it had been dropped into boiling oil. Vance was direct. Using several accounts over 3 years, Chase made small, frequent transfers to the driver, Don, totaling $2 million. He paid him to cause the accident that killed Evan. That $2 million was exactly enough for Don to get his daughter a high-end cochlear implant and ensure his wife and daughter could live a stable life. Don killed someone for $2 million? My voice cracked. Vance shook his head with a bitter smile. William, $2 million might not be enough for you to buy a watch, but for Don, it was a normal life for his daughter. It was their hope for changing their fate. I don't want to lecture on wealth inequality right now. Tell me, why did Chase kill my brother? Evan liked Chase so much. Loved him enough to willingly betray our dad, throwing the bid for that huge plot of land in the East District to Chase. Loved him enough to block a rival's ambush for Chase without hesitation, breaking his leg in the process. Loved him enough to learn carving, callousing his hands just to make Chase a jade handle piece. Loved him enough to make a life-sized mannequin of Chase to sleep with every night. If Chase smiled at him, he'd hand over a business deal. If Chase affectionately put an arm around his shoulder, he'd happily give away the clubhouse my dad valued most. It made my dad so angry he broke the family discipline rod on Evan's back. The straight-A student's IQ vanished. He seemed determined to use up 20-something years of stupidity all on Chase. Like a fool, eager to rip his heart out and offer it to Chase. Happy even if Chase stomped on it. And the result? Chase wanted to kill him? Vance sighed. Because of you. I suddenly felt like I couldn't understand English. Blankly, I asked, because of me? 8 years ago. You graduated college and had your art show in the city. Chase went with a friend and saw you. I tried to recall that distant scene. I was just an art slacker. The graduation show was purely my dad and Evan trying to prop me up so I wouldn't go through life without selling a single painting. Most of the people there were invited to fill the room. They didn't necessarily know art, but they knew how to network. They heaped praise on my casual doodles like I was the next Picasso. But no matter how I flipped through my memories, I couldn't find a trace of Chase. I looked at Vance helplessly, waiting for him to wipe away the dust of memory and expose the initial connection between Chase and me. Chase fell for you. A short sentence, but it hit me like a sledgehammer. Cracked open details I hadn't noticed before. During the time he was chasing Chase, Evan suddenly changed his aesthetic. In school, he wore his uniform meticulously. At work, his suits were perfectly tailored. He was always noble, elegant, and proper. But during that time, he started digging through my closet, saying he wanted to learn street style. I mocked him, saying he couldn't pull off the artistic vibe. Evan smiled and shook his head, saying helplessly, Chase likes it. He wants me to try it. Motherfucker. Evan did everything he could, and he was just playing my double? How could Chase be so evil? Took a long time to find my voice. My heart was plummeting, yet I still forced myself to shout. What are you talking about? Vance, I don't believe a word of this. Loving me, killing people, I don't believe it. I didn't let Vance drive me back. Dragging my bad leg, I walked slowly for an hour and a half before returning to the villa. Chase was awake. He'd pulled out the 4 and was sitting on the living room sofa, face dark, surrounded by shattered porcelain at his feet. Although his face still held the flush of fever, the man himself was ice cold. He looked at me like he wanted to eat me alive. Voice hoarse. Come here.
He walked over.
Without waiting for him to speak again, I knelt directly on the broken shards. Then, trembling, I gave a provocative smile. Is this how you want me? His eyes flickered. He pressed his lips together, saying nothing, but clenched his fists. After a long time, he asked, what did you go out with Vance for? I always thought I understood Chase. He was paranoid, cold, heartless. All he wanted in life was endless wealth and heavy authority. Pretending to love Evan was just to find a pitiful anchor for his emotionally barren life, so he wouldn't seem like such a beast. But now, I suddenly realized I didn't understand him at all. I didn't understand why. Just because he fell for me but found out I was straight, he'd be insane enough to use Evan as a stand-in to get close. I didn't understand how he could spend 3 years designing a murder plot, just to use Evan's death and my family's bankruptcy to imprison me by his side. I grit my teeth to hold back any sound that might reveal my pain. It took a long time to calm down enough to answer. Dr. Vance wanted to take me to a psychiatrist. Chase was a little surprised. The sternness in his eyes loosened for a moment. He said I might be sick. Chase sneered. Playing the depression card? You think I'll let you go because of that? Chase. I gave a miserable smile, saying his name heavily. I love you. Do you think that's a serious illness? Chase's ridicule froze at the corner of his mouth, solidifying into a comical expression. My spine relaxed and I went limp, my face twisting in pain, but I stared stubbornly at Chase. I fucking love you, Chase. My gaze, carrying despair and sincerity, rushed toward Chase like a tidal wave. Swallowed by the wave, the expression on his usually cold face shifted several times, revealing a complex mix of surprise and the satisfaction of getting what he wanted. Unfortunately, he suppressed it in the end, putting his mask of contempt and ruthlessness back on. He stood up and hauled me to my feet. I practically hung off him as we went upstairs, leaving a trail of blood from my knees and from my heart. In the medical room, I lay where Chase had been lying, feeling his residual body heat beneath me. Tormenting me, Chase dug out iodine and bandages. He knelt by the bed, putting on a show of cherishing care as he bandaged me. But his touch was heavy every time, making every nerve in my body tremble with pain. Compared to Vance, how's my technique? Anything I said would be wrong, so I kept my mouth shut. Chase pressed his thumb hard into the bloody hollow of my knee, a smile playing on his lips. William, I don't care at all whether you love me or not. I clenched my fists to endure the pain. In that moment, I couldn't tell if it was my knees or my heart that hurt more. Through gritted teeth, I asked Chase, "Evan and I look exactly the same. Are you sure you know who you actually care about?" Chase didn't answer. He just sneered. I nearly passed out from the pain of his meticulous bandaging. The torture finally ended. Chase stood up slowly, organizing the supplies. He leaned down and patted my face. "I know Vance likes you." Sure enough, he'd known all along. He just didn't say it, using the thrill of possession to spice things up. He's just a scholarship kid funded by the Sterling family. He might look like an elite now, but at the end of the day, he's just a dog of the Sterlings. Chase was right. In the car, facing my hysteria, Vance had ripped open the past he least wanted anyone to know to prove his sincerity. I learned then that he was completely dependent on the Sterlings. He had relied on their funding for school and now ran their private hospital. He wasn't just Chase's doctor. He was a living billboard for the Sterling family's charitable image. Chase bit down hard on my lip, savoring the blood he tasted with the tip of his tongue. "I warned you early on not to scheme with Vance. Delusional enough to think a dog can save you? Naive." I dreamed of the scene of Evan's car crash again. I woke with a start from the terror of spreading blood, just in time to see Chase getting out of bed to change clothes. In the darkness, he gave me a deep look, then left in a hurry. My heart skipped a beat, a bad feeling washing over me. Sleep was impossible now. Irritated, I grabbed my phone. I found unread messages from my dad. Several voice notes in a row. "William, I'm sorry. I only just found out that when you said you liked Chase and wanted to be with him, you were lying to me. You did it to make me angry, to cut ties with me. You didn't do it because you liked Chase. You did it to give Mom and me a way to live. I didn't dare play the rest." My heart was pounding wildly. Back then, Chase used my dad's safety and the massive debt as leverage to force me to be Evan's double. I had no choice. I lied, told my dad I loved Chase, and came out to him. "Are both you brothers out of your minds?" My dad was furious and disowned me on the spot. In these 5 years, we hadn't contacted each other. My fingers trembling, I called my dad. No answer. A silent terror gripped my heart. It hurt so much I could barely breathe. I clicked the next voice note. "William, Dad was useless. I let you suffer. It'll be okay now. You don't have to be trapped by Chase anymore. You're free. William, son, you still have a long future ahead of you." I screamed at the man's tearful voice in the message, rushing out shirtless. But the intense pain in my knees sent me crashing to the floor. Struggling to walk out, I was blocked on the stairs by the housekeeper, Mrs. Lewis. "William, Mr. Sterling gave specific instructions before he left. I must take good care of you. Go back to sleep. Move." Mrs. Lewis didn't move. "Mr. Sterling said you are absolutely not allowed to go out." I reached out to push her, but she twisted my arms behind my back and pinned me against the wall. "William, behave." My dad's voice notes, Chase's sudden departure. "Let me call Chase." "Mrs. Lewis, let me go." Chase answered quickly. The background noise on his end was chaotic. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. "William?" I slammed my head hard against the wall. The pain hit my nerves in waves through the dizziness, but it made me terrifyingly lucid. I finally asked, "Where are you? Did something happen to my dad?" Chase was silent. "Talk to me. Your dad held your mom and jumped off a building. Once upon a time, my parents were the most glamorous couple in the city, wearing exquisite formal wear, arm in arm, frequently attending high society gatherings, living amidst envy and flattery. But now, turned into 2 cold stone tablets, the surroundings were exceptionally desolate. Besides me, there wasn't even anyone crying sincerely. I couldn't be bothered to deal with the social pleasantries. Chase, in his capacity as my boyfriend, saw off the mourners for me. Then he stood silently by my side. I sat under a tree, looking at the 3 tombstones side by side. It was good. They were reunited. Evan had always been Mom and Dad's pride, unlike me, who had never given them a moment of peace growing up. So when Evan helped Chase fight my dad, Dad only beat him out of anger. He never said he didn't want Evan as a son. My mom went straight up insane, forgetting she had any flesh and blood in this world. Now only I was left, all alone, enduring the lingering death of losing my closest kin. I sat until twilight fell. Chase seemed to run out of patience. He hurried me, The cemetery is closing. Let's go. I stood up. My legs were numb, and I stumbled pitifully. Pushing away the hand Chase extended to help, I steadied myself and leaned on my cane to walk down the hill. Vance was still standing at the main gate of the cemetery office. In the sunset, he looked handsome as a melancholic vampire. Seeing Chase and me come out one after the other, he nodded. I paused, glanced at him, then bent down to get into the car. Once the door closed, Chase glanced at Vance through the privacy glass. William, don't think that just because your parents are dead, I'll let you go. Chase, even though my parents are gone, I don't want to leave you. We spoke at the same time. The sentences crashed into each other, creating a mess. We both froze. I didn't understand what reason Chase could still use to trap me. Chase didn't expect that I wouldn't want to leave. A heavy silence fell inside the car. It wasn't until the car was almost at the villa that Chase mocked me with a flippant tone. So being a stand-in is addictive. I surrendered, abandoning all dignity and resistance, and leaned on Chase's shoulder. Choking back sobs, I said, Chase, I only have you left. Chase's body went stiff for a moment. Finally, he raised his hand, encircled me, and gave me a clumsy hug. William, say it again. Exhausted, I closed my eyes and asked quietly, what? Chase grabbed my chin, pressing his cold lips to mine, stealing my breath. He kissed me until I nearly suffocated before releasing me as if he'd won. Say it again. That you love me. I lifted my eyelids. Chase's cold face, softened by the afterglow of the sunset, was magnified before my eyes. I reached up and touched it, like I had many times while he was asleep, gentle, lingering. Then, with solemnity, Chase, I love you. My parents had only been laid to rest in the damp, cold earth that day. That night, I was uncontrollable in Chase's bed. He choked me, kissed me like he wanted to kill me, until I couldn't take it and pushed him away desperately. Only then did he let go and continue his assault elsewhere. His scent was like the most vicious toxin, flooding my limbs and bones with the heat of the moment, making me addicted, making me hate, making me grab his hair and call his name over and over. Chase seemed injected with adrenaline, hyper-excited, flipping me over roughly. I became a crumpled rag, sticking damp and sticky to the messy bed. After the storm subsided, Chase lay panting on top of me. The thickness of lust in his voice hadn't faded, but his words were cold and heartless. William, you can't escape. Took me a long time to gather a little strength to reply. I told you I don't want to leave you. Chase buried his head in the crook of my neck and laughed wildly. Suddenly, he bit down hard on my neck. It hurt so much I swore. He lifted his head, lips stained with blood, looking like a ghost claiming a life. Your dad volunteered at the psychiatric care center, taking care of your mom for over 5 years. He was fine. Why did he suddenly seek death? Chase sneered. That mad dog Vance. Just to set you free. He went to your dad and popped the bubble of lies you carefully wove. I clutched my neck, my heart silently plummeting into an ice cave. It really was Vance. The dog that bites doesn't bark. He was afraid I wasn't firm enough, afraid I couldn't go through with it, afraid I had reservations. So he took it upon himself to sever my deepest tie to this world, using my parents' deaths to force my hand. Without that chain, can I not hold you? Chase smeared a bit of blood from his lip heavily onto the center of my brow. He's too naive. I was now completely alone in this world. What else could tether me? I watched Chase quietly, almost wishing he'd give me an answer. You like Vance, don't you? To protect him, you wouldn't hesitate to fake loving me. Disgusting. This was unexpected. Turns out Chase wasn't just a pervert. He was a moron. I can tolerate you two making eyes at each other all these years, but that doesn't mean I can tolerate him taking you away. William, stay by my side obediently, or else I'll crush Vance and make you sad. I pushed Chase off me and turned my back to him. Chase pressed up from behind, tracing circles on my arm with his finger. I guarantee if you don't listen, he'll die very badly. Oh, that was just great. My only fear now was that he wouldn't die badly enough. Hatred rolled in my heart, breaking through the exhaustion, chasing away all sleepiness. I heard Chase's light snoring behind me, knowing he had finally fallen into a deep sleep after extreme release. I picked up my phone and sent a message to Vance. I've decided. Send me the stuff. Chase took me to his parents' house. In the luxurious villa dominated by black, white, and gray, the atmospheric pressure was extremely low. Chase's father, Mr. Sterling, sat squarely on the sofa, his face fleshy and fierce, toying with a jade Peugeot handlepiece. His mother sat on the side sofa, elegantly pruning the stray branches of a bonsai. Her hand slipped, and a small twig flew up and hit Mr. Sterling in the face. The woman was instantly terrified. She dropped to her knees and crawled to Mr. Sterling's legs, apologizing softly. Mr. Sterling pinched the jade Peugeot and lifted the woman's chin. Be more careful next time. Before the woman could feel relieved, Mr. Sterling raised his other hand and crooked a finger at Chase. Chase understood immediately. He turned and left, returning with a whip in his hand. The color drained from the woman's face, and her voice trembled. Honey, let it go for today. There's an outsider here. Mr. Sterling glanced at me. Not exactly an outsider. Didn't Chase say he wants to get engaged to him? Let him learn the rules in advance. It's good for him. Before he finished speaking, the whip lashed out. The woman dared not move. She bit her lip hard, taking the beating. 2 lashes and her skin broke open. Chase watched calmly as his father abused his mother. I turned my head away. The whip cracked, snap, snap, making me break out in a cold sweat. 10 lashes in total. After beating her, Mr. Sterling solicitously helped her up, lovingly stroking the woman's tear-stained face. Did you learn your lesson? The woman nodded, afraid to make a sound. She even obediently, ingratiatingly nuzzled Mr. Sterling's hand. So the legendary fairy tale couple, the perfect marriage that all the wealthy wives in the city envied, was actually this ugly and deformed. If Chase wasn't a pervert, that would be the strange part. After that scene, Mr. Sterling finally sized me up properly. The flesh on his face trembled slightly as he spoke indifferently. Just for this little toy, you're rejecting the marriage with the Norris family? Like father, like son, neither could speak a human language. But fine. The Norris girl might not be obedient. Leaving a seed abroad later won't delay things. Chase looked a bit happy, the corners of his mouth rising uncontrollably. Thanks, Dad. Mr. Sterling handed the bloody whip to Chase. Passing it to you. You have to control your own people. What a family tradition. Chase didn't take it. Dad, I like other things. Mr. Sterling stared at the bite mark on my neck and smiled. Improper. I felt suffocated. Fortunately, this pair of psychopaths weren't talkative. After exchanging a few words about business, we left. I couldn't hide my pity for Chase's mother. I sighed. Who would have thought the envied Mrs. Sterling lived a life like that? Chase scoffed. What do you know? You don't know how much my dad loves her. He's still strong and capable, yet he's willing to stay home and keep her company every day. Everything she eats and uses is exquisitely expensive. My mom casually mentioned she liked flower arranging, so he ordered the garden filled with flowers that bloom in all seasons. Is whipping also love? Chase froze for a second. She did something wrong. She should be punished. You torturing me. Is that love too? Chase choked on air and coughed violently, then mocked. Don't dream. Just a substitute. TSK. Is admitting you love me once really that hard? If you don't say it soon, you'll have to take the secret to your grave. Chase started preparing for our engagement party. Just for suits, he custom-ordered 10 sets for me. After picking and choosing, he decided I should wear a burgundy velvet suit to match his cold, noble black one. He pinched my face in front of the dressing mirror. Didn't you say you love me? Why aren't you smiling? I obediently squeezed out a smile. It was uglier than crying. Chase threw my face away. Only played at love for a few days and you can't keep the act up? I didn't speak. On the day of the engagement, fake it better for me. I nodded. After a long while, I asked Chase if it were Evan getting engaged to you, would you be happy? I didn't know what psychology drove me, but I just wouldn't give up. I wanted to hear an answer from his own mouth. He pretended with Evan for so long, did he really never get confused? Never feel a shred of sincerity? But Chase just gave a fake smile. What do you think? He turned and walked away. I stared at his back, mentally cursing both myself and Evan out. What kind of trash was worth us brothers losing our minds over? After Chase left, the staff helping me with the fitting left too. The villa fell silent again. I went upstairs and pushed open the door to the art studio. This was my only private territory in the villa. Chase hated the smell of paint and never entered. The room was full of colorful, distorted doodles, products of my vented emotions over the years. I had a bit of talent for painting. At 6 or 7, I could draw my mom's expression when she favored Evan perfectly. Too bad I was lazy and flighty. After wasting so many years, that little bit of talent wasn't much to look at anymore. But painting a portrait was still within my grasp. I set up the easel, laid out the paper, and opened a fresh box of paints. With a cheerfulness I hadn't felt in years, humming a tune that was all over the place, I painted a conspiracy stroke by stroke. Watching Vance's face take shape, features appearing, finally presenting a cold, restrained expression. I crossed my arms and stared at my masterpiece. Then I reached out, dipped my finger in some wet red paint, and smeared it on my lips. I leaned in and left a lip print on the portrait's left cheek. I opened the door and called for Mrs. Lewis. "Mrs. Lewis, please cut me some fruit." When she knocked and entered with the fruit platter, she walked in right as I was making a show of covering the painting. She didn't speak, and neither did I. I just took the platter and nodded thanks. Then I covered the easel more tightly. When Chase came back at night, he looked unhappy. Staring at a spot of paint on the sleeve of my white t-shirt, he gritted his teeth. "You were painting? Killing time. What did you paint?" Naturally, I couldn't tell him directly. It had to be a surprise he discovered himself. So I acted a little panicked, putting on a brave front. "Just doodling. Nothing specific." Chase was instantly furious. Ignoring my bad leg, he dragged me upstairs and kicked open the studio door. "Let me see." I didn't move, biting my lip, looking like I was ready to die. Chase laughed in anger. He walked over and ripped off the cloth covering the easel. Vance stared back at him. The air in the room stagnated. My heart pounded like a drum as I prepared to add fuel to the fire. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to say a proper goodbye." Chase had his back to me, so I couldn't see his expression. I only heard him say through clenched teeth, "William, you little brat. Why do you never learn?" Vance completely disappeared from my world. Chase's new private doctor was a young, pretty woman. After examining me, she said coldly to Chase, "Mr. Sterling, show some restraint. Mr. Grayson's physical condition is very poor. Broken leg, stomach issues, new wounds layered over old ones on the surface of my body. Now my backside was ravaged too. At 30, my body was a tattered robe leaking wind from all sides." Chase waved his hand dismissively. "Don't talk too much." The woman sighed and walked away, her high heels clicking clack, clack, clack. My arms were nearly bitten raw. They were wrapped in gauze now, and I didn't dare move them. I pleaded, "The engagement party is almost here. Let me have a little dignity, okay?" Chase was like a powder keg, exploding at the slightest touch. He braced himself over me, gripping my chin aggressively. "William, I should be the one begging you. Stop provoking me." I nodded with difficulty. "Okay." Only then was he satisfied. Before pulling away, he maliciously squeezed my arm. Red bloomed on the snow-white gauze. The moment Chase saw the blood, a flash of unbearable excitement crossed his eyes. He reached to pull down my pants. I felt Vance was wrong. Chase didn't love me at all. This pervert didn't understand what love was. He just wanted to invade, to possess, to satisfy his sick psychology through twisted venting. Before things spun out of control, I begged, "Chase, last time I saw a painting hanging in your hallway." Chase paused. "It looked like one of the pieces from my grad show. I really liked it. Could you give it to me?" Chase's gaze traveled from bottom to top, finally meeting mine. Rarely, I saw a trace of softness in his eyes, as if something beautiful had crossed time and fallen into his mind. Whenever I looked back, I still couldn't recall a single thing about Chase at that exhibition. I didn't know what version of me he saw back then, to make him willing to spend $5 million to buy back a messy draft of mine. The price tag I jokingly slapped on it became the evidence of his initial heartbeat. That softness was too brief, quickly turned into a shadow. "You saw wrong. That's not your painting. See?" He didn't even have the courage to say he loved me openly. "You haven't been acting much like Evan lately. I don't like it." He dropped that line and turned to leave, leaving me on the medical room bed, bound like half a mummy, staring at the ceiling and laughing until I cried. Chase, oh Chase. Initially, out of cowardice, you looked for my shadow in Evan. Later, out of malice, you crafted me into Evan's double. Whether it was love or use, after all these years, I'm afraid even you can't see your own heart clearly anymore. Pitiful. Hateful. On the day of the engagement, half the important people in the city came to show their support. Big and small media outlets with their long lenses and cameras surrounded the banquet hall 3 layers deep. The Sterling family engagement, plus the only son coming out. Whether for the City Weekly or entertainment gossip, it was an explosive headline worth squeezing in for an exclusive. I wore the burgundy velvet suit, leaning on my cane, accompanying Chase as we wove through the crowd, socializing with guests, waiting for the ceremony to begin. The host came over. To remind us it was almost time, I put on a smile. The moment was finally coming. I couldn't hear a word of what the host was saying up front. I just kept smiling, holding hands with Chase, presenting a picture of happiness, until the big screen started playing the montage video. It was supposed to be carefully shot photos of us before the engagement, plus scenes from our life. I whispered to Chase, Chase, back then when you liked me, why didn't you pursue me? Chase seemed not to understand. What? If you liked me, you should have chased me. I'm easy to catch. Why ruin my family, ruin my brother? A photo of us hugging and laughing froze on the big screen for a few seconds, drawing cheers from the audience. Here it comes. The screen switched. The treasures from the link Vance had thrown me, all tampered with by me in secret, were uploaded onto the screen. Vance hadn't been very loyal during his years as a dog. He'd put his heart and soul into collecting evidence of Chase's crimes. The media went into a frenzy, flashbulbs flashing nonstop. The guests fell silent, looking at each other, wanting to look at the big screen but afraid to. Evidence of Chase and the Sterling family's crimes. Records of fund transfers, photos of body disposals, coercion, smuggling, blossoming all over the screen. Chase snapped out of his shock and grabbed my neck, choking off my manic laughter. You're crazy. A group of black-clad bodyguards rushed from all sides to drive away the media. The control room in the back was in chaos. Mr. Sterling's face was black as the bottom of a pot. Chase looked hideous, wanting to strangle me to death. I felt like I was going to die in the next second. But he finally let go. Amidst the uproar, I clutched my throat, coughing violently. Coughing up tears, I blurry saw Chase block a dagger secretly thrust by a bodyguard for me. And in the chaos, I squeezed to his side. I drove the sharpened lead pencil I'd prepared right into the back of his heart. Chase, time to pay your debt. In the confusion, Chase turned around in slow motion, disbelief frozen on his face. It looked ridiculous. Chase was taken away by an ambulance. I was taken to the police station. The truth of the car accident years ago, the sins behind the Sterling family's rapid rise, the mystery of Vance's disappearance, all would be uncovered one by one. The leg Chase broke, the new and old scars crisscrossing my body, ironclad proof of his abuse, made my stabbing him seem quite justifiable. Plus, after Chase was out of critical condition, he chose to settle and dropped criminal charges against me. I was finally free. I walked out of the police station clean with the status of a victim. Chase asked to see me once. At this point, we really had nothing to say to each other. But just like I had countless moments of unwillingness, wanting to ask him for a definite result, he also wanted to get a real answer from me. The police took me to the hospital to see him. On the hospital bed, he was haggard and pale, one hand cuffed to the bed frame. When he saw me, surging waves rose in his eyes. I sat by the bed and peeled an apple for him. You don't like Vance, do you? Chase asked me. He had always been a smart man. Thinking calmly now, he would inevitably discover the truth. I smiled and handed him the apple. He took it, took a bite, and then laughed aloud, pulling at his wound. The laugh was ugly in the end. We looked at each other in silence. The question I had been chasing, I didn't want to ask anymore. Pointless. Chase was a psychologically defective moron. Something he didn't even have an answer for himself. All he could give me was disgust. I waited silently for him to finish the apple, then stood up to leave. He reached out and grabbed me. I don't know how to love people. Chase's eyes were red, making him look pitiful. I don't even know who you are anymore. I shook off his hand. Whether it's Evan or me, Chase, you don't deserve either. Chase's violence slipped out of control for a second. He grabbed me again tightly. William, you clearly said you loved me. I sneered, mimicking his best look. Do you want to hear it? I can say it right now. But he shook his head desperately, afraid that if you hear a lie enough times, you'll start believing it's true. I leaned in close, patting his hair like I was teasing a dog. Chase turned his head and bit down hard on my arm. The police stepped in and pushed him away. He licked the blood from the corner of his mouth, tears falling. I turned my back to him. I hope when the time comes you can apologize to my brother. When Vance's body was fished out of the sewer, it was so decomposed it didn't look human. The investigating officer pushed the photo over for me to see. I glanced at it. Pity. The officer smiled faintly. Your parents' vengeance can be considered taken. I didn't speak. It wasn't hard to investigate. After all, the police could easily get the chat logs between Vance and me. But so what? I merely used his sincerity. And he was the murderer who indirectly caused my parents' deaths. The verdict on your brother's case will be out soon. Chase hired a hitman plus other crimes. The death penalty is inevitable. He deserves it. What are your plans for the future? Haven't thought about it. The conversation got a bit awkward here. The officer excused himself, and I went to the cemetery. I told the whole story from beginning to end. I didn't know how Mom, Dad, and Evan would feel hearing it. I only knew that my heart was completely hollowed out. Not much happiness, but I couldn't say I was sad either. It seemed like there was an William who had died silently in a hidden place, along with that deformed, undignified love. And I would be reborn, carrying the hope of my entire family.